to Salute. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and in the studio today is Charles McDonald. Charles, sir, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, yeah, well, you're welcome.
Well, sir, tell us a little bit about your time in the Army.
Well, I served, of course, during the Vietnam conflict,
Yes,
and
sir.
I went to intelligence school, and I became trained as what they call a photo interpreter. So
Okay,
it was
yes,
aerial
sir.
reconnaissance. I was involved with aerial reconnaissance, and my first assignment in Vietnam was attached to the 55th Military Intelligence Detachment in Nha Trang.
Yes, sir.
And we reported to the General Staff.
Yeah.
And then my second tour, when Nixon was pulling down the troops,
Yes,
they
sir.
reassigned me to the 73rd Surveillance Airplane Company.
Okay.
And it was in a little airfield called Long Tan, about 30 miles out of Saigon.
Yes,
We
sir.
were in the middle of the swamp there.
Wow.
And that assignment, I was actually, we actually flew the Mohawks, and we were
Yes, sir.
observers.
Yeah.
So we actually, I had a desk job in Nha Trang, but I was in the field
Yes, sir.
with the Mohawks.
Well, yes, sir. Well, thank you for your service. Yeah, I appreciate it. I know you continue to serve then, and then, I want to fast forward. So you wrote your own book. Can you tell us about your book and what's in it, and when you look at to publish it?
Well, after being in the conflict, I've over the years a nagging question has been, why is it that most of the world's religions and most people desire peace,
Yes, sir.
but yet the world is in so much conflict? And I was looking at the two, and I said, what's behind that? So I decided that my background in military intelligence, that I would use what they call order of battle
Yes, sir.
analysis, and I would look at the war between good and evil. And to do that, I had to throw away everything that I thought was true, and I had to go all the way back in history to find out when the war started. That's the first thing you want to do. You don't want to start back now and try to go back.
Yes, sir.
You want to go all the way back and then come forward till you first encounter the war. And the war did start. I mean,
Yeah.
in religion, they'll tell you that man has always fought and there's always been conflict. I mean, there's always small conflict.
Yes,
Husbands and wives are a good place to start.
Micro version of it. Yes,
yes,
sir.
the micro version.
Yeah.
But husband and wives don't build tanks and artillery.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's a different level of aggression. And so that's what I did. I started that, and I found out that where war really started is when man started to acquire wealth. The early man, if you look around history, what we call the primitive people,
Yes, sir.
they lived peacefully.
Yeah.
They had a simple life. They took care of their kids. They fed themselves. But once they were hunter-gatherers. But
Yeah.
once they became farmers could accumulate. They could raise their own food, and they had surpluses. And when you
Yeah.
had surplus of food, you could trade. And when you traded, you started to acquire wealth. And the old saying is, why do robbers rob banks? And they say that's because where the money is.
Yeah.
And that's where the first real conflict is, that there were these nomadic tribes, the Huns and the Mongols, and they came into the cities to get all the money they could.
Yeah.
And so that's where the war really stood. They had the good people that were just trying to live their lives, but
Yeah.
then you had the evil people that came in and literally slaughtered cities.
Yeah.
I mean, the history of what went on, people would be just appalled to know that some of these places, that when they came in, they actually made pyramids of people's heads.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've seen that in parts of Slovakia when I was traveling throughout Europe.
So that's
yeah.
really where it started. It all started
Yeah.
when we had wealth and we had greed. So that the real source of all the conflict in the world, if you look at it, is very simple. Conflict is a combination of ego and greed.
Yeah. It's funny, in the military, and when I went to a school, we talked a lot about Thucydides back in the day, with the Athenians and the Greeks, and Thucydides would say, cause of war, all warfare is either fear, greed, or honor, and if you look at any reason why you have a flash of warfare, fear, greed, and honor, it can be intersected in any way to those three roots. So, so your book, when are you looking to publish?
Well, I've actually put the book aside because the book became my mentor is a member of the Oxford Roundtable.
Yes, sir.
And he read the book and he said, "You wrote a textbook."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, great! That wasn't my intent." And so you can't sell a textbook at Barnes and Noble. So I'm going to have to revise the book. But in the meantime, because as we're speaking, people are dying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so in intelligence work, you have to get your report out as quickly as you can because you have soldiers in the field dying until that information gets out.
Yeah.
So I said, to speed up the process, I'm going to create a documentary film.
That's great.
And that's where we're working right now. We're using the book as a basis of documentary film, and the film will lay out what I discovered, and it'll be for general consumption. It'll be more entertaining than a textbook. I'll assure you.
Well, sir, thank you for your time. I'm excited to read your book, watch the documentary, and no doubt it'll have an impact on society because, you know, it's great that you're using a framework of the order of battle because it is warfare is between two sides or, a coalition of two sides. So, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how that these roots of evil have perforated our environment. And, a lot of folks were saying at the end of the Cold War that this was really the end of modern warfare. And in reality, as we've seen, it's actually caused to be worse in a multipolar world. So,
well, the key is most civilians see overt warfare, open warfare. What civilians are not aware of is all the covert warfare that goes underneath.
Oh,
that's really where all the warfare is today. It's all not in plain view.
Yeah, below the surface, information operations specifically.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, sir, I look forward to having you back on set. We'll talk some more about the documentary when it's getting ready to get it released. So, thank you for your service to the nation. My dad was a Vietnam veteran himself, and I know that was a war a long time ago, kind of like when I was in the first Persian Gulf War. My kids said, "Dad, you're old." So, thank you for your service to the nation and what you're doing in your post-military career.
Yeah, well, the ultimate goal of the book is once we understand why we're in conflict.
Yes, sir.
The goal is world peace. I mean, everybody's talked about it, but I actually think that I found out it's going to take sacrifice. It's not going to be a lollipop solution.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks again, sir.
Okay.
All right, folks, if you like what you heard, check us out on LinkedIn, and then we'll see you at our next segment.